have any intelligence on Mark Murphy? Because the Blues are playing a bit coy. We're not sure one way or the other. What have you heard?
I heard him say that he's 80 to 85%, so one thing's for sure is we'll plan for him to play, and we'll know definitely whether he's going to play 90 minutes before the game. So he's obviously a very, very good player, and a pretty good replacement for Cade Simpson if he comes in. But so we'll do all our due diligence, and if he's there, he's there. If he's not, it's a bonus.
Did a few things differently in Carlton last week with Dygan, Ford, etc. Are you expecting those sort of moves again, or do you think they were more a one-off?
Oh, I think that most sides would look at Heath Shaw and Nick Maxwell and say we've got to mitigate their defensive quality. So, you know, I think they'll look at our back half and make their own decision on that. Won't change what we do too much. So, if Dygan's forward, he's forward. If he's not, then Thornton may come in. There's a lot of possibilities, but we won't get too caught up in what they want to do.
Just notable backup Ruckman this week. The Blues, an area you think you might be able to get a bit of an edge in?
Depends which way you look at it. Cruiser probably played his best game for the year last week. So, you know, players like that of that calibre tend to step up under pressure, and he was magnificent last week. So, you could look at it as a weakness, not having a backup for him, or you could say, well, Cruiser's going to spend the majority of the time in the ruck, which is if he's doing that, he's going to be a pretty influential player. So, you know, we're going to have to look at how we can possibly get an advantage. But we got Todd Goldstein in really good form. Got double teamed last week by Cox and Nat Nui, which wore him down a little bit. But he's a very resilient player. So I look forward to seeing a great battle between two young ruckmen who could hopefully forge a real rivalry for the next decade or so.
It was a real physical contest last week down in Hobart. How have the boys pulled up?
Yeah, really well, really well. We're actually a bit surprised how well they pulled up. The ground was pretty soft, and you know, while it was a fierce contest, the bodies have pulled up pretty well. So, but we don't need any extra motivation or anything to get up for our one and only Friday night game of the year.
How influential do you think the result of this game will be in shaping the rest of your season?
Yeah, pretty influential. It's an important game for both sides, obviously, and but you know, we don't want to build it up too much because next week's the same, you know, and the week after's the same. So I think there are 5 teams probably in exactly the same situation. So every game is vitally important. So we'll just be taking this game like we did last week's.
You mentioned the trip down to Hobart. There has been a bit of a postscript to that game at the Tribunal with Lindsay Thomas and the way that the Eagles used him in their defence of Luke Shuey. Damien Hardwick's came out this morning and said that Lindsay was character assassinated. What's your view and the club's view on the way the Eagles handled it?
Oh, well, it's not for me, and Donald McDonald's already said this during the week, it's not for me to comment on how other clubs go about their business. What we'll do is we'll defend Lindsay to the hilt. Lindsay's been outstanding this year for us under a variety of pressures, and what he's shown through this is that he's an extremely resilient person. So Lindsay will brush this off and get on with it. One thing I do know about West Coast defence is I know John Worsfold well enough to know that he would have had nothing to do with that. So Defence Council use whatever tactics they can to get their players off. John Worsfold's not the type of person to do those sorts of things. So, and neither is Luke Shuey. So, you know, we'll just get on with our business and we'll worry about our players. Lindsay's just been fantastic for us this year, and he's had some well-documented challenges, and he's got through those. His attack on the ball's first class. When we do our boxing, no one wants to fight him. He's the best fighter in the club, so he can take punches, he can throw punches. He's a really resilient person, and we're just wrapped with how he goes about his footy.
What was his reaction when he heard that they'd use that as sort of their defence?
Nil reaction. Just didn't faze him one bit.
Were you surprised when you heard that's the tack they went down?
No, it doesn't worry me at all. I mean, I think Donald McDonald has said it's not what we would do, and I'm sure it's not what John Worsfold would do. But these days at the Tribunal, you have QCs and you have Defence Council who use whatever tactics they can. I haven't taken it personally, and nor has Lindsay.
I mean, some have tried to link it back to the earlier game you played this year, a bit of talk about head-high tackles after that game. You don't believe that had anything to do with it?
No, that's a question you'd have to ask them, but I highly doubt that.
You mentioned that, you know, it's only Friday night game. Is that something you make a point about and focus on particular this week because of that, or...?
Yeah, well, Rat said last year that we request Carlton every year for our Friday night game. That's not true. We request a Friday night game against anyone who wants to play us. And if we can have Carlton and a couple of others, that'd be good. But, you know, we don't request Carlton. We just request a couple of Friday nights, and we generally get one. So Now the AFL have assured us that once we start playing footy that's worthy of finals contention, then we'll start to get more Friday night games. So, but it is a big night for the club. We expect a packed house. The only way we can get more Friday night games is to play footy that's worthy of it, but also for our supporters to come out and pack out Etihad Stadium. Now, if we get a full house, then we'll demand the AFL and that we get more Friday night games, because people want to watch us play and people want to come out and see us play.
Just another one on Lindsay. As part of the tribunal process, once that argument was put forward, should have Lindsay been called to give his version of the event?
But possibly. I mean, it's a funny one. I mean, the only one who can tell you categorically what happened and where he was struck was Lindsay. But Lindsay doesn't want to go up and front the tribunal, and I'm sure that we've got an enormous amount of respect for Luke Shuey, and to be honest, we want to see him play. We don't want to see him rubbed out. So if Lindsay was called, he would be obviously telling the truth, but he wouldn't be doing anything to try and put Luke Shuey in, that's for sure.
Bit of talk this week about your sort of last quarter fade-outs. Do you think your sort of style of footy and the fact you've got a pretty young list sort of leaves you a little bit vulnerable to some fade-outs?
Well, I suppose the evidence is starting to mount that that's the case, but I certainly don't think it's an issue. But the facts are on the table that we haven't finished off games as well as we would like. Now, the players are really, they really understand. They're really clear on why that happens. It's nothing to do with endurance. It's nothing to do with the style of play. It's to do with us making some errors. And we've been working on consistency in our game. And we made some errors against West Coast. I mean, you look at the West Coast game. We went in. People say we're 35 points up, but we conceded a goal on the siren at half time. We conceded a goal in the first minute of the third quarter. Then we gave away a 50-metre penalty and conceded another goal. All of a sudden, it's back to game on. So there's a lot more to it than simply suggesting, we've got an issue with fading out. We've got an issue with consistency across the board.
Do you think it's more of a coincidence that a few of those errors have been strung together in a couple of last quarters this season?
No, the Port Adelaide game was just a series of fundamental errors. But I think that every game's different, and you look at West Coast, we knew with the calibre of players they've got that they would come back at us, and you probably remove Dean Cox from that game and we win. So I think it was more to do with some top line opposition players than anything we were doing.